This is an analysis from Alpha Business Media.
Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're diving into the Bamboo Grove Strategy, a really fascinating blueprint for how Nepal can build economic resilience in what is, let's face it, a pretty turbulent world. So, this brings us to the central question, right? How can a nation like Nepal, completely surrounded by land and so dependent on its neighbors, possibly build an economy that's shockproof? It's a massive challenge. And the answer? Well, it might just lie in a powerful metaphor.
And that is the Bamboo Grove Strategy. Think about it. A healthy economy is a lot like a grove of bamboo. It relies on four key qualities. First, it has to have deep roots, meaning a strong local economy. That strength then gives it flexibility to bend when shocks hit rather than just snapping. This is all held together by interconnectedness, where businesses and government work together like a single massive root system. And the ultimate goal? Sustainable growth, making sure the whole grove can thrive for the long haul.
But why is a strategy like this so urgently needed right now? Well, let's take a look at the storm that Nepal is currently facing.
The pressure is really coming from all sides. Globally, you've got conflicts, trade tensions, and of course, persistent inflation. Regionally, being landlocked makes Nepal dangerously dependent on its neighbors. And then internally, there are major gaps in critical infrastructure. We're talking transport, energy, and digital. But the real kicker is that these things don't happen in isolation. Past border blockades have shown us exactly how they can combine to create a perfect storm, leading to severe shortages of even the most essential goods.
So, how do you fight back? Well, the very first step in the Bamboo Grove strategy is to strengthen those roots by building a solid domestic foundation. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because there's a kind of hidden threat at play. Remittances, the money sent home from Nepalese working abroad, are an absolute lifeline. But they create this strange paradox called Dutch disease. This flood of foreign cash can actually make the local currency stronger. That sounds good, right? But it makes locally produced goods more expensive and imports cheaper, which completely undermines local industries like agriculture.
And this chart, wow, it really shows you the scale of the issue. Remittances make up a staggering 25 to 30% of Nepal's GDP. That's on par with the entire agricultural sector. So while all that money supports families, it's mostly being spent on imported consumer goods, not invested in strengthening those all-important domestic roots. The challenge is crystal clear. How do you channel all that capital into productive use?
Okay, so let's zoom in on agriculture, the supposed bedrock of those deep roots. This table lays out both the incredible potential and the persistent problems. Take cardamom, for instance. Nepal has a unique, high-value product, but it really struggles with market access. Initiatives are trying to fix that, like building an Everest Big cardamom brand. But honestly, you see the same story across the board. From rice to ginger, these deep, systemic issues like low yields and post-harvest losses are holding the entire sector back.
And here is one of the biggest reasons why. This number is just shocking. A staggering 35% of agricultural subsidies are reportedly siphoned off as commissions for officials. Think about that. That corruption acts like a disease, basically starving the roots of the nutrients they need to grow, no matter how much money you throw at the problem.
And this leads us to a critical question. We know for a fact that adopting just one new piece of modern technology can boost a farmer's income by over 20%. So why on earth is adoption still so slow? The answer, as you might guess, isn't as simple as just cost.
You see, it's a whole web of interconnected barriers. Just try to put yourself in a farmer's shoes. You can't get a loan for new equipment. Even if you could, your land is so small and fragmented that a tractor is just impractical. There's nobody to train you on new techniques, your internet connection is spotty, and if the machine breaks down, good luck finding a mechanic. It's this vicious cycle that just traps the entire sector in low productivity.
So, if the roots are weak, how can the grove possibly survive a storm? This brings us to that second pillar, building the flexibility to bend in the wind.
A key tactical shift for businesses is moving from a just-in-time mindset to a just-in-case one. For years, the goal was all about efficiency, keeping as little stock as possible. But in today's volatile world, that's just a huge risk. The new focus has to be on resilience, on holding safety stocks to ensure your business can continue when disruptions inevitably happen.
Building that kind of flexibility requires concrete action. First, diversifying trade is absolutely critical to reduce the over-reliance on any single partner like India. Second, businesses need to totally modernize how they manage their suppliers, moving away from depending on one to working strategically with many.
And third, they have to embrace digital tools. Platforms like GeoKrishi, for instance, can give everyone from farmers to businesses the data they need to make smarter, faster decisions when things get disrupted.
But individual businesses can't do this alone. The entire grove needs fertile soil and clean water to thrive. And that's all about nurturing the ecosystem, the policies, the infrastructure, and the human capital that actually enable growth.
And here we hit another major paradox. This chart shows that while huge amounts of money are flowing into Nepal through remittances, its most valuable asset, its skilled people, is flowing out. This brain drain creates a vacuum of the very innovators and managers that you need to build a modern, resilient economy. And this points to perhaps the single biggest weakness in the entire ecosystem, the huge gap between good intentions and actual reality. Nepal has ambitious plans, like the Prime Minister's Agricultural Modernization Project. But even the official reports on it call the results unsatisfactory. This persistent failure to execute means that even the best-laid plans aren't creating the supportive environment the economy so desperately needs.
So what is the path forward? How can Nepal actually start to cultivate this resilient future?
The takeaways are pretty clear, and they fall into two distinct camps. For businesses, the focus absolutely has to be on adopting technology, investing in people, and building strong strategic partnerships. For policymakers, the priorities are just as stark. You have to prioritize infrastructure, you have to reform the broken subsidy systems, and most importantly, you have to close that massive gap between policy and effective implementation.
This really leaves us with the final, vital question. The bamboo grove is a powerful blueprint, no doubt. But a blueprint is only as good as its builders. Can Nepal's leaders and businesses truly work together in a coordinated way to cultivate an economy that is as deeply rooted, as flexible, and as interconnected as the metaphor suggests? The answer to that will determine the nation's future.
This has been an analysis from Alpha Business Media.